Dave and I were involved in a certain clique of martial art people. We were competitive kickboxers for a long time, so we knew each other through that in our very late teens, early 20s.
I met Chad about 20 years ago.
I had been in stunts maybe 5 years. Dave had gone into, believe it or not, school teaching. We talk quite often, and we were looking to put together a small clique of guys, of martial art people that were into choreography and into training really hard to get into the stunt business. Dave expressed interest. We invited him out one year.
I came out to LA and we started working in film as stunt performers and choreographers.
Somewhere along the way, we started a stunt team, then we started a stunt company. Our company is 8711.
8711 is the foremost company in the world for stunt fighting for films.
So when our guys practice their martial arts, per se, we do it with cameras and we edit the scenes. We actually do it the way we would do it on set. We'll get our cameras out and we'll shoot it, and then we'll get on Final Cut and we'll edit it. And that's how you learn how choreography works. It does not work.
And that became our introduction into the making of these pre-vises that we do.
You know, we just try to do a video viz of what we'd actually want to do on set.
And we became known for that. People would request them, directors would request them.
All of the presentations that they've been doing over the years, they've been cutting and storyboarding and pre-vising and being storytellers.
That's how we made the jump from fight choreographers and stunt coordinators to second unit directors.
So there's a lot of experience with the camera, with production.
They've always been incredibly driven, really hardworking, incredibly focused, always knew what they wanted to do, always pursuing that goal.
They've done some of the biggest movies and some of the most extraordinary stunt work in the last 20 years.
These are guys that, have made their mark on the world in second unit directing and choreographing some of the greatest stunts in the history of film.
These guys are, in my opinion, the best there are.
Chad and David were looking for a project to direct.
I always wanted to work with them. I like how they are, who they are. When John Wick came, I sent it to them first for action. But in the back of my mind,
I thought that it would be to their taste. So I didn't know how that was going to go, but I kind of presented it.
I got the script on a Friday, read it, called Dave on a Saturday.
Chad and I talked about it and we're like, man, this is like 3/4 action anyway. Maybe this is a good one to direct.
We got on the phone with Keanu and said, look, we'd like to direct your movie, or at least bid for the directing job on it.
And he was like ecstatic. He was excited about that.
They really responded to the material, and they went and pitched their ideas, and Basil loved it, I loved it, and here we are.
Getting to know Chad and David and their history and how they've come to become directors, I think is really inspiring.
For two guys that are doing their first feature film, first unit, I think they're doing a really commendable job.
You're always nervous going into something when it's a first-time director, but knowing that they came from the stunt world and how amazing they are as second unit really pushed me towards wanting to do this action movie with them, and they've also been such a pleasure to work with.
This was a chance for them to do what they've really wanted to do. So there's an enthusiasm there. There's a freshness and an eagerness and an openness that is seductive to me.
And I'm so impressed that they can work together in the way they do. I haven't seen a fist fight. You know how boys are.
Working with Chad and David has been wonderful. I only wish that Addie was more in the film.
The directors are great, man. They just got so much enthusiasm. They have great ideas. They really understand camera angles and character, and they give you enough room to have fun, but we can also work on containing things a little bit. I'm having a blast.
I've had a great time at Chad. They're very fluid with the way that they work. It's all very easy to me. You've got room to, create, and it's a collaborative sort of process.
It's very hands-on. I mean, they're the people doing all the special effects and all the fight scenes and stunts anyhow. So in a movie like this, there's no mediator between them and us. It's just they're doing what they know how to do, and they do it very well.
Very meticulous in their work and very caring about how a fight proceeds and how it unfolds in front of the audience. Very fun-loving. I love them for their sense of humor as well as their enormous craftsmanship at what they do.
The way they work together is very smooth. I've worked with co-directors before, not so many times, but I have done it before. And usually it's kind of like, oh, that's the person that deals with the actors, and that's the person that sets up the shot. There's usually a kind of clear personality or clear tendency. In this case, it's quite fluid. I don't know exactly who's responsible for what. I think they kind of tag team. They've been really trained at a certain kind of collaboration and a kind of understanding of what they're working on, where it's going to fit into the bigger picture. Even though they're new directors, they understand very well the mechanics of how to put together a movie.
I really enjoyed the opportunity of working with Chad and Dave.
with their cinema, with their experience, real enthusiasm. Let's go, let's do this. There's no challenge that can't be faced. There's no challenge that can't be overcome. You know, we must get it, we must do it. What do we have to do? What can we do? This is what we do.
This first one was a huge learning experience for us. It was a great way to pool what we did. We've made far more mistakes than we did not, but it was a great learning experience. I think we do have a really good movie inside of what we shot, which is good. Very proud of it. We're very proud of how things worked. We took a big bite for our first one. We stretched our budget and time frame and our schedule to the absolute limits, probably in a detrimental way sometimes, but in other ways I think we fought for what we thought we really wanted and what we believed in, and I think we got that.
The Red Circle was fun in that it's a riff on the classic nightclub gunfights that you see in a lot of these action movies.
John is chasing after Yosef in this sequence that is called the Red Circle.
Well, the Red Circle, it's like the typical hangout place where all of us Russians hang out. My boss owns the club. It's our moneymaker. It's where all the young kids hang out, all the women.
There's, people dancing and lights and strobe lights.
This nightclub actually has a bathhouse below. That's sort of a club in itself.
Part of it that takes place in a kind of bathhouse, which was a groovy location, had some fighting there.
Yesterday, we actually shot a scene where I come down to the bathhouse, and Yusef, he is just hanging out with his friends. He's getting drunk, he's disrespectful, he's with women.
I had to memorize the whole Russian lullaby. Yeah, we sing it in bath scene, me and Alfie, just full of hot women. We shot the whole day in the hot tub with pretty women in bikinis singing that song.
Hey man, how you doing? How you doing? Good? Hey, look at us today. What an upgrade.
Hello, Francis.
John Wick actually infiltrates the place.
Он здесь!
John is playing cat and mouse with the guys down in the bathhouse, and he has a bead on Yosef. Yosef escapes.
Vigo gives me the order to protect his son. I'm in charge of all the guys, so now I send all the guys after John Wick.
John has to chase him up through the nightclub, through the crowd. Vigo has actually laid a trap of the security there that all are armed to the teeth.
Move! He's here! He's fucking here! He's there! He's there! He's
In the
coming!
Red Circle, we kill about 6,000 people.
There was opportunities there, action-wise, that Chad and Dave really spoke about. Following John through, he's kind of hunter-prey.
I was very fortunate to work with Keanu on Matrix Reloaded, and it was just so much fun working with him, and he's just such a professional and such a dedicated martial artist and an incredible actor and just such a hard worker. When I got the call to do John Wick and they said, hey, you gotta do a couple of fight scenes with Keanu, I was like, yes! I did 2 fights and they're both very, very complicated, very, very tough fight scenes to do. They wanted it more technical, where I get actually the upper hand, where I really almost beat John Wick. It's a very different style I've never really done before. It's very raw, very rough, very cool. I think the guys did a great job putting it together, and it was a lot of fun doing it.
The hardest part about the Red Circle was the location. It was, you know, easy to do fights in and stuff like that, but the guys wanted Wick to go over the railing and crash to the floor in one. The ceilings were really low. There was nothing we could rig to, and we had a limited amount of time to get in there. We ended up doing it as a match cut. Basically, the stunt double did a fall over the railing to boxes. And then we matched the fall in camera. We picked the stuntman up off the ground on a wire, match his position in the air, and then release him and drop him to the floor.
When they just hoisted you up and you're just looking down, obviously you have some protective gear on underneath the clothes, but when you're hanging about 4 feet off the ground and they're like, and action! Action! Free fall to really hard wood floor.
Ideally, they stitch it together in post, and it looks like he went over the railing to the floor.
They opened up the cinema of the action. You know, it had a lot of long takes and sequences.
And because we wanted to show longer takes and didn't want to do what has been more of a shaky cam, more music video style of cutting, cut for all the fight scenes, we wanted to just show off Keanu.
We want to see the choreography, we want to see the movement, we want to see martial arts.
It's refreshing to see what a human being can do.
It's also just an excuse to have fun and have a movie that's a ride. We wanted to make 2 separate worlds. We had John Wick's world where he was in love with this woman and he's living like a normal life. And then once he goes into this assassin hyper-real world, it becomes like a graphic novel. And so the situations are heightened, the characters are a little over the top, the costumes are a little bit heightened, the world is pushed.
The underworld of John Wick has a formality to it, which I found really attractive. It's like everyone is really sensible and human and sophisticated in a way, and good.
We try to explain a world that is not seen for other people, the hidden world perhaps in New York, but it's the same wherever you go.
I would say John Wick explores a very dark, seedy underbelly of New York City. It is one of violence and very, very dark characters.
Chad and Dave created this distinction with costume, with color, with the cinema that they use. So there are a lot of cues, architecture that you walk into that let you know that you're in this other world. You know, whether you're walking into these doors and you open a door and, whoa, there's a club, even though you've gone through the basement.
You know, the underground world of Hitman has been captured by this boutique hotel.
Continental, baby.
I play the hotel manager of this hotel that is basically a hotel for some of the most dangerous criminals and killers in the underworld. And I'm kind of the gatekeeper there. It is a pleasure having you with us again, Mr. Wick.
And this is where there's, you know, the assassins in the underworld go to relax. No business can be done there.
It's the central hub for where you want to go if you're a bad guy.
The Continental itself is like a safe ground, safe house.
You go there, you take off your shoes, you can relax, you make your contacts, you make your deals. Anything off those sacred grounds, fair game. But on those grounds, you behave.
And anyone who breaks those rules, as we find out, pays heavy penalties.
You know, it's this very like isolated, crazy world that it actually makes you wonder if there are places like this.
Everyone can go be safe for a second, sanctuary, and have a good time at the speakeasy.
And you enter with the gold coin.
Apparently, if you have a gold coin, you can pretty much get in there and get anything you need.
The gold coins are, in a way, sort of the private credit card.
The gold coins are kind of like your entrance into the world. Not only do you have to have the wealth to be in this sort of underworld, you have to have that type of wealth where you can drop $1,000 and enter these places, but it's more of like a membership.
We deal in a currency of gold. Gold coins are passed amongst us.
Goodbye, Charlie.
This special group.
John.
You can get somebody to come remove bodies for you. You can get a doctor that's not going to go to the cops.
That gold coin identifies them with each other, and it's their way of moving through the process. One side of the coin is peace and violence in one character, and the other side, there's a lion for strength and a shield for protection. Because these coins also, if you've got one, you're protected.
Underneath his work table, he has buried literally a treasure chest of gold coins, weapons, and his suit, John Wick's suit. In a way, it's almost like a costume and the tools of his trade.
When John Wick opens that trunk, you see everything. When Marcus opens his cabinet, you see everything.
You know, playing an assassin opens up the toolbox. We don't deal with poison, but we deal with guns and fighting. And we do some knife stuff. The character as well, you know, can kill with a car.
It's that wonderful idea that, like, a great cook would select the right knife. You've got John Wick and Marcus, and they're going to select exactly the right gun at the time that they feel is the perfect thing for what they're going to go do.
We've created a world that's different, and we've approached the project in a different way, and it'll feel fresh and unique, and that's all you can hope for it.
I'm a big fan of graphic novels or of urban mythology, so we wanted to make it kind of an urban myth.
Baba Yaga.
And so the situations are heightened, the characters are a little over the top, the world is pushed.
We wanted a realistic vibe, but at the same time, kind of an otherworldly feel to it.
And it should feel not of this world, an underworld, a world that we've never seen before.
The big challenge with John Wick is there's two of everything. There's two directors. There's always at least two choices for every location. It took a very long time to whittle down all of these elements down to what we finally determined was going to be the physical manifestation of John Wick.
In the first draft, I did the casual storytelling method of just going small town, big city. We realized that the city needs to play a character in the piece. I think with a lot of these older, iconic cities, it has a personality.
Monumental architecture, space, the way light comes down into the streets when you have canyons, the way light comes into big spaces like lobbies.
And the personality not only affects the story, affects the characters they're in. New York is such a personality in and of itself. Once we decided, let's try New York, it became a character instantly.
John Wick and New York City. Chad and Dave were very keen on extrapolating the world of New York for the world of John Wick.
We love New York because even if you're on the streets, if you're in downtown Manhattan, it feels subterranean. The city's a very vertical city.
When you want a hyper-real world, Manhattan feels hyper-real. The buildings, the architecture, the Art Deco, you have everything you want.
I have not been able to really work in a way that shows classic New York off in the way that we're able to show it in John Wick.
Tasker crew. How many?
How many do you have?
Spaces in New York tend to be smaller. If you've got a big action sequence, you need room to do it, room to block it, room to shoot it. And you also don't want to set up a big, violent action sequence in a space that's too precious and that you could do damage. So you have to kind of weigh all of those things. In searching for the house, it was always important to us that pretty much anybody would want to live there. When you're watching the movie, you'd go, wow, that's great. I would love to live in a house like that. That punctuates the comfortable life. And we needed a house that was remote. John and his wife were not people who entertained or really had friends because they just really relied on each other. That was the most important thing in their lives. We finally found this particular house that, when it was originally built, was built to house an art collection. And because of that, it had windows in strange places and light coming in an interesting way. And that light would change during the course of the day. And that kind of alive environment felt right. Some of it is classic New York, some of it is contemporary New York. There is this sort of dichotomy of old and new, and it was finding places where we could combine them to make something interesting and pleasing and still move forward with the kind of graphic novel concept. We had to paste together several different elements to create it. So the directors always felt that the exterior of the hotel should be like the Flatiron Building. We found that for an exterior. Once you go inside, then that's another story. And we found a classic lobby that had been the lobby of the Kennard Building. It was sort of put together in the early 1920s. And that was one of the places that we were able to kind of mash together classic New York from the 1920s and a contemporary style that were brought into the classic to create this graphic novel idea of a lobby as opposed to something that's completely realistic.
Room 880.
In the city of New York, you can't go over 35 miles an hour. So how do you do a car chase? So we ended up getting on the Brooklyn Naval Yard and we designed a sequence there. And we ended up doing this a lot in the movie. We had to design to the location we could actually get. It was that sort of type of movie.
The finale, to a lot of people, would not look like what they think of as New York, but the worlds of New York are very vast, and often people really only think of it as Manhattan. So it was interesting to get out to the Navy Yard for the finale. It's sort of industrial to the max with cranes and dry docks. Very atmospheric because of that. It's very dangerous. It's dangerous to be there. It's dangerous to shoot there. And it's a very, very good place for a backdrop.
I was born and raised in New York, and I'd never been to the dry docks in the Navy Yards. It was intense. The great thing about this film is not a lot of CGI. It's really what you see is what you get. The Navy Yards was a true testament to that.
John's using his car and a vehicle to take out guys, hit them, shoot them through the roof. It's fun. It's fun.
Well, you can't beat New York for a location. It just makes everything realer. It ups everybody's game. You have to come with your A game, and I think that really helps the movie.
I think it all adds to the grittiness and the darkness of the film because it's like you have these beautiful, beautiful old buildings that are just grays and marbles, and I think that's clean cut. And I think that old New York feeling is what adds to this film's allure. I think New York itself is a character in the film.
It really is the greatest character on any film set if a director shoots it right. These guys are taking advantage of it. Everything is going to lend to, I think, to a really great New York film.
It's not what you did, son. It's who you did it to.
Eric, the machine. The machine. You have no choice. You're in the machine. You're going down.
Keanu went through extensive training, probably 4 solid months.
And I don't mean like an hour a day, you know, doing push-ups and sit-ups. I mean 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. Gun training, martial arts training, driving training.
He's always first man there, last man to leave. And when it's time to hit the gym or hit a specific skill set, he's always there. He's always been incredibly involved, and he wants to be there.
Keanu's been trained by some of the best stuntmen in the business, some of the best fight coordinators in the business.
Chad and Dave for Training hooked me up with John Blair and John Eusebio, who really were doing the choreography and training me.
2 more. Let's get 2 more. Let's drive on. Maybe you off balance him first. Right, something like that. And then
Choreography is hard to do by yourself. When you choreograph, you usually have a few people that you trust. We brought in John Eusebio and John Valera, and then our younger guys as well. They put their heads together and they start designing sequences, and then we go in and sort of direct them and collaborate with them.
It's always kind of a daunting process when you're kind of dealing with someone that like knows action just as well as any stunt guy working today.
Go, that's a goal.
I've never worked with an actor who's willing to work that hard, train that hard. The guy's an animal.
We're just teaching him choreography pieces that will kind of be later integrated into his choreography.
We would go through techniques, jiu-jitsu, judo, I mean, really basic stuff because I didn't know anything.
Keanu's a consummate professional. He's super humble. He'll let himself be proud of himself a little bit, but I know in his head he always feels like he could have done it better.
He knows what movement looks good. He knows what looks best, that's strong for him.
Definitely choreographed to an actor's strengths. We knew how he moves, so we just choreograph it, and we wouldn't have to spend hours and hours training him how to move that way.
We kind of watch and then see what he does best, and then we just figure out, okay, that movement looks best for him here, and then we'll incorporate that to something that he'll obviously use later in the movie. Some things that are tactically correct might not look great on screen, so you kind of have to have some basis of realism and then change it for the movie audience.
He carved out his entire summer to become John Wick. At least in the movies I've worked on as a producer, I've never seen a movie star give so much commitment of his time before a movie actually started. And that training has paid off because the stuff he's doing in this movie is just incredible.
It's better to have the actor trained up with a variety of techniques that we can re-choreograph if we have to. And Keanu went through extensive training.
When you see Keanu fight or do some of the gun fu or drive, it's Keanu Reeves sliding a car, it's Keanu Reeves doing judo, it's Keanu Reeves doing jiu-jitsu. It's Keanu doing what a man that would be his character would do.
Because Keanu's the kind of guy too, where like as we're writing the script, he's like, you know, I should fall 4 stories and I'll do that. You know, instead of 1 car blowing up, make it 15 and I'll be in the mix.
That was fun training him in that process, you know, and all the other guys that were in it, you know, some of them were a little nervous at first, but, you know, in the end, I think everything worked out pretty good.
They were such wonderful people and really patient, and the instruction I got was first-rate, world class.
Fuck you, motherfucker.
Keanu's one of the toughest, or at least the most enduring or persevering cast member that we ever worked with.
There's a lot of action. The story is expressed in that action, and it's very much hung on this central character that is played by Keanu.
He's one of probably the hardest working people I've ever worked with. You know, he's so devoted to it. He's in there doing all of these sequences.
Keanu has obviously proven himself. He's like the comeback kid. He has like that kind of gift, and I think people are kind of fascinated by him.
He's capable, and he's cool, and he can do the work. He can do the action sequences.
Knowing that Keanu was involved in it, that just made it, that was the icing on the cake.
He's an action icon, so, I mean, a lot of us grew up watching his movies.
I think stuntmen in general are maybe have a bit of ADD. They don't like to sit still for very long. They have a hard time focusing on one thing. It's kind of how most of us are. I definitely make movies for audiences. You know, we're trying to entertain people. At least that's what I want to do, is make people, give people something to go see for 2.5 hours and, you know, lose themselves in it and enjoy it and entertain them.
Darren Prescott, who is our contemporary in action world, we brought him on to do the car stuff. And we brought him on specifically to train Keanu to do his own stuff.
Basic stuff like 180s, 90s, 45s, 180 burnout, do some drifting.
We brought Keanu out, trained him how to drive. He's a phenomenal driver and stunt driver, and that allowed us to be able to put him in a lot more of the shots. He never, in all our stunt driver training and stuff, he never blew through his mark. He never gave me any concern or any reason to think he couldn't do this stuff. And a lot of people just never get it, and he gets in. I think he really loves it. I think he really enjoys the driving. In one shot, Keanu is going to drive up and basically slide his car into Avi. So we wanted a shot where Keanu would slide a 90 right up into camera. And he, from 100 yards away, comes speeding up at the Navy Yard. If anything went wrong, his passenger side is a 50-foot drop. If Keanu goes to the right, he's dropping 50 feet, he's done to concrete. You're not going to walk away from that.
Get profile, we say 3, 2, 1, and wham.
He did his 90 so good that because he was perfect on his mark, we were able to push right inside the car, right up to Keanu into an extreme close-up. There's a bit of apprehension when we were filming out there, but it came out great. There's only a few other actors that I've worked with that I can put in this class, and Keanu's the top of the class.
You rarely see an actor that does that much. We wanted to make sure that we photographed it so you knew he was doing it.
We tried to think outside the box and go a little different, and instead of doing a big car chase, we ended up using Wick's car as a weapon.
We designed something that was a little bit more car, gun, foo than your normal speed, bash 'em up thing. And so like John's using his car and vehicle to take out guys, hit them, shoot them through the roof, drift 90 around them. It's fun.
I had the chance to work with tactical pistol, long gun.
We wanted to take this sort of practical grappling martial arts and mix the guns with it. Close quarters, guns, and judo. We get to see it for the first time. This idea of gun fu, as choreographers, that seemed interesting to us.
It's basically kung fu with guns. We try to make it real flowy and interesting. However, there's a fine line between gun fu and gun porn, where we've gone over the edge and we have excessive gun killing. We're constantly walking that fine line, looking for something that's interesting and different, and trying to bring something cool to the screen. With this, with John Wick, with Chad and Dave's background, it was just a really open forum. It's really collaborative. It really allowed us to bring together all of our stunt experience and try to do things that we have never seen or done before.
It first started with Chad, who wanted Keanu to, be different than all his other films.
Chad and Dave were interested in introducing jiu-jitsu and judo to the character.
We chose a core of a judo, jiu-jitsu kind of background. We wanted to just show off Keanu and show that, look, this is Keanu Reeves, he's gonna do his own stuff. He's a skill he knows. This is how we kind of see it.
We tried to really keep it pure so that the true jiu-jitsu fans and judo fans will see moves in there and we will have done them justice. Jiu-jitsu traditionally is hard to capture on film because it's a lot of close ground fighting. It doesn't look like a lot to an untrained eye.
The visual flair, we like the guy's body flying in the air, guys spiking on the ground. So we're trying to get that feel of it. As soon as he grabs you, he's gonna try to dump you on your head, finish it quick.
It's a different pace for the kind of action that we usually do. And when you first watch it, you're like, oh my God, why didn't we do that? But we kind of like it. It's refreshing to see what a human being can do.
Keanu and Michael Nyquist did a fight, basically the finale fight, on a bridge at night in the rain in freezing cold temperatures. I mean, it was amazing.
We shot it in the rain in the winter on this great location. It was a good kind of hard. And so, yeah, it was physically taxing, but the sequence itself was so cool, and such a, leading up to this battle. Viggo says, no more bullets, John. Just you and me. Just you and me.
I play Viggo. He comes from Kiev. And in Russia, they have the Sambo kind of, it's a jiu-jitsu Russian way of wrestling. When I came to New York before we started shooting, I met the stunt group. You use stunt work in a way of building up a character. What kind of techniques we have or whatever, and how we do it as a dialogue, and I'm very impressed with these guys.
We're trying to make him kind of like the crafty kind of veteran style, like crafty kind of sneaky old man that used to run with those things when he was younger, but now that he's older, he has to be a little bit sneaky and kind of like using dirty tricks all the time. Like everything's based off something that's a real move, but I think when you choreograph for movies and TV, I mean, you always have to choreograph for camera. We have to take what's real and then we kind of like alter it a little bit for cinematic purposes. Because some things that are necessarily realistic and proper they don't show up well on screen. If you're doing it on somebody, they can feel the technique, but the audience can only see it, and they can only read the pain from the person he's doing it on.
Jonathan Eusebio is the fight coordinator, and he's been training Keanu and Adrian and Michael and everyone else who has a fight on this show, and choreographing and teaching them the choreography and setting these fights up. He's such a good choreographer and performer. He's integral to the team. It's great having him here.
This has to be like, the next guy would be Carlos, is that right? I say for me, last couple of years, I've been coordinating more than I have performing. So eventually you want to kind of progress whatever the next phase of your career is.
He's really humble. He's definitely a martial artist. He kind of lives by that code, I guess, or that respect. He really looks up to Chad, and Chad relies on him quite a bit.
The lead villain sends out a hit squad basically to take Wick out.
We have some of the Russian hitmen going in to Keanu's house, and they're trying to capture him.
They go in there expecting it to be easy kill, and he's kind of waiting for them already. It's the first time in the film that we see what he's capable of.
Keanu outsmarts him, and he uses some of his gun skills and a little bit of gun fu.
He's trapping them. He'll take out a squad, like 2-3 guys, quietly in one side of the house, advance his way to the other side of the house, and then take on the rest. Eventually all hell breaks loose, and the last remaining guys come in the house, and he just kind of go for broke style after that.
Man, it's one fight after another. My favorite's the Perkins fight. I think it's really cool. It's different.
He comes back, he's injured, and he's dealing with, basically, she's like the top hit woman in his kind of world.
Action!
She goes to kill him. It's basically a big drag-out brawl.
Perkins?
I thought I let myself in. So hard, maybe the hardest thing I've ever done. They really wanted to have her use all of her body weight, which is mainly jujitsu, jumping on his back. She's kind of like a spider or a snake, constantly moving around him.
He can't get her off him, so she's just relentless. Adrian, as a woman, looks physically formidable. She's tall, so she looks physically like she can kind of hang.
Adrian came to us with some fight experience. She moves really well. She gets the choreography really quick, and she's tough and doesn't complain. So she fit in well with the Wick formula.
Renee Moneymaker, she's our femme fatale. She had some good stuff in this one. Anywhere between throwing yourself through the window or me and Keanu literally just back slamming her into a TV in the wall. She took some hard hits.
Oh. You get a lot of stunt guys in your teeth, right?
No, not really.
No?
Surprising.
Only bumps and bruises. Hopefully I can keep that up. Knock on wood.
Her and Keanu beat the hell out of each other for 2 days.
I mean, we're breaking shelves, breaking furniture. Just a lot of breaking going on in there.
Not as much as I wanted, but they smash up quite a bit of stuff.
I guess we can start here. It's not too bad.
A lot of clawing. It was really dirty, very realistic.
It was fun. It was a fun fight to do. There was some great jiu-jitsu in there, and it looked really cool.
We have to do something that's different. And I hope with John Wick, we've created a world that's different, and we've approached the project in a different way, and it'll feel fresh and unique, and that's all you can hope for, I think.